The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We finally made it. It's Friday, October 6th, and today is World College Radio Day, National Coaches Day. I think this might be for Trump, but I'm not sure. You guys tell me. National Orange Wine Day, National Body Language Day, National Manufacturing Day, and I don't even know why this is a thing. I think this is crazy, but nonetheless. National Plus Size Appreciation Day. It should be National Diet Day, but whatever. But thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to see where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio. Oh, wait, no. We are also streaming on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble. Oh, yes. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we are going to kick it off today with the feisty, redheaded conservative Gretchen Gailey, who loves to parade her dogs up and down Capitol Hill in atrocious outfits all the time while in her kitchen baking delicious snacks. And they're not dog snacks. They're actually really people snacks. That's right. She's the founder of Panoptic Strategies, is none other than the Miss Gretchen Gailey.
First off, Jason Beck, they're generally festive attire, bring smiles to everyone they meet. So shut up. Capitol Hill loves my dogs in their outfits.
Festive attire, huh?
Festive attire, yes.
You look very
especially
festive
now.
today,
Halloween,
too.
They got their Halloween sweaters out. They're getting ready to go.
You look very festive today, too, Gretchen.
Well, thank you. Last night I made some Reese's Pieces brownies and also a key lime pie.
You didn't make a Apple Betty thing, right? Because it was Apple Betty.
Dude,
Day
I was thinking about an
yesterday.
apple pie, but apple pie's a pain in the ass.
Okay.
All that peeling and stuff, it's not a joy. But
I know.
maybe later.
A lot
Later
of
this week.
A lot of things aren't appealing. I know, Gretchen.
I know, especially our choices for the next Speaker of the House. My headline today is what a new House Speaker will mean for marijuana reform, including banking. With Representative Kevin McCarthy ousted as House Speaker in a historic vote to vacate the position on Tuesday, cannabis policy observers are wondering how the new GOP leadership will approach marijuana banking, legalization, and other reform issues. Who will take the speakership is yet to be seen, but so far, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan and Majority Leader Steve Scalise have announced they are running for the top House position. Based on their records, marijuana reform advocates may have their work cut out for them if either attains the Speaker's gavel. This goes on and on and on, bitching about McCarthy. Let's get into what actually it means if it's Jordan or Scalise. Jordan, chair of the Judiciary Committee, has voted against at least 26 cannabis reform proposals during his tenure, including measures to legalize marijuana and promote cannabis research. As ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Jordan blasted House Democrats for moving to legalize cannabis through the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, also known as the MORE Act, calling it a radical, out-of-touch Democrat priority. Jordan also penned a minority views section of an extensive report prepared for House lawmakers last year that outlined the GOP arguments against the legalization bill as it headed to the floor. This bill is an enormous federal subsidy and stimulus for the marijuana industry. It said this extreme and unwise bill would open the floodgates to marijuana cultivation, distribution, and sale within the United States, allowing bad actors and transnational criminal organizations to further exploit America's addiction crisis. Jordan's section of the report also complained that the legislation would create a significant federal bureaucracy that would include new taxes, expansive grant programs, and a federal license regime. The minority party view at the time, according to the document, was that the reform would also incentivize bad actors and transnational criminal organizations to flood American streets with drugs. That said, it seems very unlikely that Jordan would allow a newly refiled version of the MORE Act to advance through his chamber. With him as speaker, even greater questions would be raised about what, if anything, could make it to the floor, including cannabis banking legislation. Well, I don't give a damn if MORE Act comes back or not. It was a piece of crap to begin with. All right, Representative Steve Scalise. Scalise, meanwhile, has voted against bills like the MORE Act and the Safe Banking Act twice. Those are among at least 23 examples of cannabis reform legislation he's opposed. Scalise also co-sponsored a bill that included a provision to explicitly prohibit people from accessing welfare assistance at cannabis stores. While he previously polled constituents about their views on marijuana legalization, his office has said that he's personally opposed to the reform, in part because he believes cannabis is a gateway to more dangerous drugs. He was among numerous Republican members of Congress who blasted Democrats over scheduling a vote on the MORE Act in 2020, dismissing the significance of the issue and arguing that it was an inappropriate time to take it up. He also criticized last year's vote on the bill. Scalise, unlike Jordan, did vote in favor of one reform proposal, a bill to expand cannabis research that President Joe Biden later signed into law. Meanwhile, other names that have been floated by insiders as possible contenders for the speakership include House Financial Services Committee Chairman Patrick McHenry, whose panel would likely have jurisdiction over the cannabis banking bills, and Representative Kevin Hern, Jody Arrington, Mike Johnson, and Tom Cole. McHenry, who opposes cannabis banking legislation, but has said he wouldn't necessarily block it from advancing, is currently serving as Speaker pro temp. If he formally gets the speakership and his replacement as chair of the Financial Services Committee was more hostile to the issue, such as Representative Pete Sessions, who currently ranks high on the panel, that could seriously endanger the marijuana banking bill's prospects. I have no idea who's going to be the next speaker, frankly. I got no freaking clue. This place is a shit show. Washington is burning, which is interesting to do in a swamp. I don't know what is going to go down with this thing. Either way, it is going to absolutely be a new path for cannabis banking to go through. I don't think that these two gentlemen, if it's either one of them in charge, is necessarily a nail in the coffin for safe banking. It's just going to be a different pathway. Jordan, we've already gotten his buy-in that he would allow safe banking to make its way. This was prior to all this bullshit going on, so who knows where he will stand nowadays. We will see. Either way, we're fucked. I don't know. Fucked. But
not really.
Dude, there's hope.
This
Always
is
hope.
Great. This is a great
Always hope.
opportunity.
We got plenty of time.
We get fucked and then we have hope.
This is a fantastic time.
Well,
for
that's
America.
my whole life with men. Fucked, and then there's some hope, and then fucked again. I mean, that's just how the way men like to play their cards. So fucked, hope. That's it.
I'm all in.
Oh man, Gretchen, all that language, you're getting some people in the chat all excited.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly it's hell in a handbasket here. I have no idea what's going to happen and how this is all going to play out, especially since Trump
I know how it's gonna
last
play
night
out.
came out and he threw his endorsement behind Jim Jordan.
It's good that Trump came out.
I know. I don't know what he's been hiding for all these years. But the other talk around town is that that Trump may actually make an appearance in town, and that's not for his court case. He may make an appearance here to actually try and influence here the speaker race. If that happens, I don't know. Do these guys have backbones? They haven't shown them in the past. We will see if they stand up to Trump on who the next speaker is going to be. Anybody? I've seen a lot of regurgitation. Are you guys all right?
So I can tell you what's going to happen, Gretchen. I already can tell you.
You know?
I live in a
I
crystal
can't wait.
ball.
Tell me,
Yes.
Jason Beck. I've been waiting to hear from you all morning.
I bet. I bet. So here's what I ultimately see that's going to happen. Okay, so Steve Scalise is in, as far as the ranking order, he would be the next speaker. I'm not sure if he has the votes, but one person that you left that is heavily in the contention, and also too, I'm supporting Jim Jordan as of right now, until he's not the second most viable candidate. But you know who I think is going to be the third most viable candidate, and who ultimately will probably be the speaker, is probably freshman or Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. I think he is, because he is all part of the McCarthy machine right there and has been on McCarthy's side throughout this. And so I think he is a very possible predecessor to the Speaker of the House, not to mention my good buddy Matt Gaetz wants to become Florida's next governor, and so does Byron Donalds. And if Byron Donalds is the Speaker of the House, then he will not be able to actually run as the next Florida governor. So
did you and Matt Gaetz cook this up last night? You're going to start this rumor, because I've heard nobody talk about this guy becoming speaker.
There's been a number of people, and I've even seen on mainstream media them talking about Byron Donalds being the next speaker. So no, but this is a real thing, Gretchen, 100%.
Okay, can't wait. Any endorsement from Matt Gaetz is not going to help whoever is.
I didn't say Matt Gaetz was endorsing Byron Donalds. I didn't say that.
Of course he is. He's going to endorse him so he can get him out of the way of being governor.
Slow down. No, he's not.
Yes, you are.
No, he's not. Kevin McCarthy is going to be doing all that dirty work to get Byron Donalds' support.
Speaking of dirty work, if Jason and Matt Gaetz cooked that up, they cooked it up in a mobile RV in the desert, Breaking Bad style. It's
you know it, baby.
There's a lot to unpack.
You're just saying that because I grew up in a trailer park, Yarrow. That's kind of mean.
Well, you were fat shaming at the beginning of the session, so like you really kicked it off in a really bad way.
I have a question. I have a question about that. Well,
let's get back to fat.
Okay.
Let's bookmark the marbling and get into the article, which is, you turn up the bass and you're pretty likely to blow out the speaker, right? So that's kind of what happened here. And, I heard a lot about bad actors, and when you were reading about that, Gretchen, I got really defensive because like, this is my shot. This is my high at 9. I'm the bad actor. Like this is my, and as long as there's no casting couch involved, I'm going to try to stay here. And he talked about bad actors and transnationals. I mean, I guess if you guys are going to be really messed up on this show, better transnationals than trans illegals. But either way, I think the trans should be welcome. So that's another thing. And then, he talked about the speaker race. And I think race shouldn't have anything to do with who the speaker is. I think that we need to be colorblind in terms of who we decide to be the next.
I agree with that. I don't believe in identity politics. I'm with you on that, Yarrow. I'm with you on that part.
So here's what concerns me though, Jason. You talked about a new member who was in Kevin's sort of.
He's in the McCarthy camp. Yep.
But you said that he was a rookie, right, or a freshman?
Well, I misspoke at the beginning of that because
he's a sophomore.
I think he's a sophomore.
Sophomore.
Yes.
So I think, and maybe this is just because now I finally have some gray hair on my temples, but I think that it's a very bad sign for any political party to be appointing up and comers to a very important position where government requires a skilled and experienced hand to get things done.
You know what?
So when you say,
hold on. There's one part of Byron Donalds that I don't think that you have calculated into this equation here, Yarrow. And I think once I tell you this, he will have your full support. So Byron Donalds, and a lot of people don't know this, but Byron Donalds, prior to him being a congressman, he actually had caught a marijuana trafficking case and fought it. So with that, I think that he would be very favorable to cannabis, and I think that he would be a fantastic person to be the Speaker of the House, aside from his relationship with Kevin McCarthy.
I'm a better angler than him because I caught a marijuana trafficking case, but I was able to at least reel it in and get it on shore. So what did his get broken off the line or something like that?
What do you mean? No, he fought the case. He fought the case in the court of law, and he was able to be successful with that. You should be celebrating. You should be celebrating this.
System based on the presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
You should be celebrating this.
But I do think his political affiliation might make him a little innocent. I mean, guilty by association.
I mean, that's anyone's political affiliation, though. Just saying. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, break it down.
And Mark, you have any thoughts on this? Mark, or any of the doctors in the room?
Man,
Not me.
it just makes me sick.
It's like a bunch of hot air.
It really does. It makes me sick.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they should not be
It's
talking
hard.
about transnationals.
Shouldn't be this difficult, you know? I mean, am I wrong? It's Shut the Fuck Up Fridays. I tell them all
Until
to
we
shut the
separate
fuck up.
big money
I'm
from
with it.
politics,
That's never going to happen, bro. You have to feed the machine,
the
Dr. Mark.
politicians will be beholden to the people who are stuffing money into their pockets.
That's
End
true.
of story. That's it.
Yep, it's the golden rule. The one with the gold makes the rules. Very true. All right, well,
We got to get more gold.
Yes, that's right. Got to
Well,
get more gold.
People need to remember, and just while it's important, well, semi-important, who is the speaker, it also matters who's in charge of committees. And with all this shuffling, that's going to put different people in charge of these committees. If Jordan were to leave judiciary, that could bode well for safe banking. Because while he's semi on board, he wasn't that on board. It's so many moving parts that could actually factor in. And you're like, why would safe banking come under judiciary? If the HOPE Act, if Graham Act gets attached to safe banking, that's where it's going in the House. It's not going to be financial services. It'll have to maybe go through both committees. There's just a whole lot of uncertainty and things we don't know that is going to factor into the pathway of this bill. Honestly, do I think now, and I know I've been saying this, and I am the first to take something back, unlike anyone else on the show.
Yeah, right.
Generous of you. Don't ever give me a gift.
Yeah.
Mark today.
I'm checking Hyanine's return policy.
Unless Congress decides to say, we're going to work for the American people and be back every single day until the end of the year, I don't know if SAFE is going to get done this year. Because all these jokers who are going to run for the House, first they got to get elected.
That's right.
They got to get that done. That's going to take a week, maybe 2 more weeks till that happens. Then we have to contend with the whole government shutdown coming again. These guys, if it is a good old mega crazy Trumper type guy, they have already promised not to do CRs. So that means the government will shut down because there is no way they're going to pass the appropriation bills necessary to keep the place running. So we're going to get fucked left and right. We'll see. I think SAFE is going to get pushed to next year.
I mean, you got a lot of this
Can I ask you?
I mean, we're talking
there is a lot of
not
fucking on
penis.
my mind, Yarrow. There's a ton of that, especially in this town. All you do is get fucked and raped here.
That's right.
That's how legislation gets done. That's how the sausage is made.
No,
a lot of
sausage
fucking.
Be there before the fucking.
That's right.
The
Lots
sausage
of.
is
All right. Is that why it's not working so well? Good to know. Maybe Dr. Mark or Dr. Talleyrand can give me a refresher on how that all works.
Because both of them will play doctor with you.
I have a question for you, Gretchen. So
Yes.
the farm bill, the 2018 farm bill, I believe expired last Saturday. Does this affect the committee shuffling that you're talking about? Affect the next version of the farm bill?
Well, it'd be helpful if I knew who the chair of the ag committee is right now. And the only reason I'm thinking that the shuffling will be affected is because Jordan is judiciary chair. McHenry, who's also another possible contender, he is the chair of financial services. So that's what I'm thinking about with committee shuffling. No, ag should not be affected unless.
Usually, when you look at a farm bill,
Elise
like
is in charge of
out of the
ag.
refrigerator, even if the farm bill has expired, you got to another couple weeks before it goes really rancid. Just
Yarrow,
so you know.
I got no time for you, Yarrow. You're driving me nuts. The chairman is Glenn Thompson. No, it should not affect. I don't think so.
All right. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial and we're going to be right back.
Keep it moving.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Oh, yeah, we're keeping it rolling over here today just for Gretchen. Just for Gretchen. But I'm going to tell you guys, I think you guys will find this pretty interesting. AI, the talk of the town, can detect if you have recently smoked cannabis, they're saying. That's right. An artificial intelligence model can detect if someone has recently used cannabis. This could one day help to identify intoxicated people who may require medical care, but some experts have stressed that further research is required with a larger group of people. I wonder if they're saying that because it's plus-size persons day, but I don't know. Urine, saliva, and hair strand tests can reveal if someone has used cannabis. However, these can take a fair amount of time to analyze, and cannabis use does not immediately show up in some bodily fluids. Sang Wang Bi, a Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey, and her colleagues wanted to create a way of quickly assessing whether someone may be dangerously intoxicated. They, therefore, had 33 adults who use cannabis at least twice a week report their use every day for up to 30 days. During that study period, the participants were on activity tracker to collect information on their heart rates, step counts, and sleep quality. Sensors on the participants' phones also provided information on their micro movements, such as how they held their phone to gauge their stability and coordination. Data from these participants was used to train the AI to detect if someone may have used cannabis. The researchers then tested the trained AI on the remaining participants' data when taking into account the number of false positives and negatives that the AI flagged. It was 85% accurate at detecting someone who had been moderately intoxicated within the past 5 minutes. The AI can continuously interpret data collected from the activity tracker and sensors, and medical professionals could look back at historical data stored within the AI and see when any unusual activity started, which may suggest when someone became intoxicated. It's about preventing harm from happening and keeping people safe, says Tommy Chang, one of the researchers at Rutgers University in New Jersey. However, Joseph Wu at Stanford University in California and Mark Chadney at Western University in Canada both say that the AI requires testing in a larger group of people. The researchers also didn't report how much THC the participants consumed or their route of cannabis administration, such as smoking versus ingestion, says Chandy. And both of these can affect a person's degree of cannabis intoxication, he says. And Chung says that the accuracy of the AI depended on how the participants self-reported their cannabis use. If they're not reliably reporting on that, that could be a problem for the AI model, she says. Wu says that the drug effects questionnaire, which asks people to report how they feel after taking a substance, may be a more quantitative way of assessing cannabis intoxication. Well, I think these kids are just bored with nothing to do because they're coming up with these dumbass assignments for them to do and these dumb studies, and I'm just not buying the fact that an AI is going to tell me whether or not I'm intoxicated. But you know who's going to buy into this? Probably the government, and they'll probably put an AI robot in a cop car to tell if whether or not you're intoxicated or not. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this?
Oh, shit.
Right?
There's just no way to what we're ultimately talking about is if you're driving,
it's not a substitute for thinking,
right?
It's not a substitute for intuition.
Well, tell that to Gen Z. Tell that to Gen Z,
AI
Dr. Mark.
Is machine language learning from the internet, and we know how much bullshit is posted out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So until they work out all these bugs, I think AI certainly has its place as a tool to help writers be creative and whatnot, but you still need to humanify the AI output. But I don't know. Ask the other Mark. I don't think AI would hold up in court today because it's so flawed and so imperfect and so unhuman.
I agree with that. And there's no way it's going to detect impairment and whether you're actually impaired to drive. There's just no way to do it. It's going to be picking up cannabis that you smoked 2 weeks ago. that is now carboxy THC in your body that's not even psychoactive anymore. And so that's the problem with all the testing that's out there. We're fighting these cannabis DUIs every day, and the worst ones are the people who, I smoked 2 hours ago, and that's where you get yourself into trouble, because now
you've admitted it.
Madness will be on the jury, and one of those jurors, you smoked 2 hours ago? Well, Christ, you should be in your house for at least 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
You got people out there, that's the mentality. So it's going to be a long, long time, if ever, I think, that they're going to have something that's the equivalent to the alcohol that they've created in terms of, like, California, 0.08.
Mm-hmm.
You're legally presumed to be impaired to drive based on the decades of research and testing and everything they've done. There's just no way to do that with cannabis, I don't think.
Dr. T, what do you think about this, Dr. T? You with us, Dr. Talleyrand?
I can't read your lips.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Dr. Talleyrand. You got to. No, Dr. Talleyrand, you're just on mute. You're just on mute.
Yeah,
you just got to unmute. What
you have to say, though.
Yep, there we go. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we good. Right. Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yeah.
What it seems like they're doing is collecting a bunch of data points and making a correlation from multiple data points, like your heart rate, your activity level, and whether you've used cannabis or not, which is self-reported. So this seems very far away from a type of detection that would say that you're too intoxicated to drive. I think the problem I think what's unusual is that they're using multiple data points, right? So with alcohol, we're just checking your blood level. With this, we're checking your activity level and your heart rate and your cannabis use pattern to determine if you're intoxicated. What's curious is, what is the law going to say about this? With all these multiple data points, it's an unusual situation. AI in the courtroom, and is it valid enough to say, yes, you're intoxicated? I don't think so, but it's going to be an interesting legal fight.
I think, Dr. T, I think all it takes is one precedent-setting case where they allow it in court to be administered, or to be admitted as evidence, and then once that ruling comes down, it's going to be an uphill battle to try to reverse course.
Well, if you lose in the courts, but I think if you have a good lawyer who argues against it, with good scientists.
Yeah, but a lot of these, I get that, but a lot of these people that fight these cases don't get anything but public defenders, and that is not good legal representation for them, and could just be sandbagging them up the river for the prosecutor's office.
Right. Well, we need to get them to use Mark.
Yes. Yes, we just need to teach more people to shut the fuck up, huh, Mark?
That'll help.
That's right. And what is today, Mark?
Shut the fuck up Friday.
There we go. Yes, indeed.
Is there any legal precedence to using it now that AI is more prevalent out there? Is there legal precedence to using AI to AI-derived calculations to determine any legal outcome? I think this is going to be new to the courts.
I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't come to fruition in the courtroom yet. And it'll be interesting when it does. It's just more stuff for us to fight, and more reason to shut the fuck up. As I said, that's one of the things with these cannabis DUIs that's gonna get you. That's how you get yourself into. That's how you get yourself arrested. Yeah. We just got somebody the other day who pulled up to a checkpoint and got all nervous and hadn't, are you drinking today? And no alcohol. Are you smoking anything? Well, yeah, I smoked my medicine, 3-4 hours ago. Pull off to the side right now. Get him out of the car. Have him do the field sobriety test, which in California, and Google your state, you don't have to do. They're voluntary. And every time you do it, they're going to say you failed, and then they're going to take you in. And as I told this guy, if you pull up to a checkpoint and you say, discussing my day to any of their questions, and you're not falling all over, you're not
drooling over yourself.
You're going to let you go. You're going to go right on your way. So people just have to stop feeling comfortable that, hey, it's my medicine. What's the problem? And there's too many people who don't understand that this is what it's going to lead to, and you're going to spend the night in jail. We'll have a good chance at getting it all thrown out and dismissed or beating it, but now you got to go through it. Mm-hmm. And anytime you have to go through it, if you end up at trial, you got a 50-50 shot, no matter what the fuck's going on. Trial is, who knows what's going to happen with 12, well, as my dad used to say, 12 idiots in a box. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And on that, we got to keep this train moving. We're going to roll right on into you, Mark. We have the Pot Brothers at Law's very own, Mr. Mark Wasserman, who's an attorney at law that reminds people daily to STFU, and it just happens to be Friday, and that's what that F may or may not stand for, but I'll let him tell you more about it. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Mark Wasserman.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be high at 9, high all the time, properly medicated. And today I've got a nice story. I believe that Gavin Newsom follows us, and the California Assembly follows us, because starting January 1, 2024, Assembly Bill 2773, which we have dubbed the "Why Did You Pull Me Over" law, imposes a new restriction on peace officers making a traffic stop or pedestrian stop before engaging in questioning related to a criminal or traffic violation. The officer must state the reason for the stop. The officer must also document the reason for the stop on any citation or police report resulting from the stop. Now, these requirements, this is the big one, because this is where the cops are going to do their little song and dance to get around it. These requirements do not apply where the officer reasonably believes that withholding the reason for the stop is necessary to protect life or property from imminent threat, such as in a case of terrorism or kidnapping. Now, those two, terrorism or kidnapping, that's pretty specific. We can see cops down the road thinking of other ways. Well, I'm going to say this happened, so I don't have to say this. It also revises the annual report that law enforcement agencies must make to the Attorney General regarding stops conducted. Effective January 1, 2024, the annual report must include, for each stop, the reason given to the person stopped at the time of the stop. And finally, the bill requires the Department of Motor Vehicles to include information about these new requirements in the California Driver's Handbook. As with other bills imposing restrictions and requirements on police officer procedures, law enforcement agencies should ensure these changes are communicated to peace officers. And, that last part, make sure the cops know this. The cops don't even know that smell isn't probable cause in California anymore. And actually, people get mad at me for I keep saying it. Well, I want the cops to know, so they leave you alone about it. They go in and we get those cases dismissed left and right. I salivate when I see that in the police report. And that's where a bill like this, as we're all thinking, well, a cop's just going to say this and is going to say that, got to be articulated in that police report and jive with the body cam or your camera. Everyone's being filmed these days. And we have so many cases where the cop writes one thing in the police report, and then when you watch the video, it's completely different. And we can knock them down because it doesn't match up. This requirement, this should be a nationwide requirement. And a lot of people think it already is. But the fact of the matter is, it's not. It might be policy for a lot of departments across the nation. And there are a lot of great cops that we converse with, that follow us, that love what we do, that's what they do. They come up, they tell you, and saw a great video the other day of a little dog in a little car getting pulled over by a cop, and the cop comes over, of course, the dog can't talk, so it's naturally shutting the fuck up. And the cop just writes a ticket and slips it in and gives it to the dog. That's how basic traffic stops should be, just that. Come up, write the ticket, and be on your way. Now, if the cop sees something going on, something's in plain view, then, continue your investigation. But if you're pulling over somebody for not using their blinker or making an illegal lane change, what do you got to talk for? What do you got to talk for? And requiring them to now, this is why I pulled you over. Here's the reason. And we still encourage everybody, once they tell you, ask them again. Stick to our 25-word script. Why did you pull me over? And let them tell you again. Because on multiple cases, I pulled you over for speeding. And then later on, oh, you know what? You weren't using your blinker. And it changes over the course of the traffic stop and the investigation, because they're just trying to prolong it. They're trying to get you to say shit. They're trying to get you to admit stuff, beginning with why they pulled you over. See, a lot of cops like to say, you know why I pulled you over? And a lot of, what did I run that? And that's just the beginning of the admissions. So that will hopefully alleviate all that. But I believe the big push is going to be making sure the cops know and understand this. And when they don't do it, so we don't know what's going to happen yet. We're going to have to see it play out in real time. When we get a case and a cop didn't do that, can I get it dismissed because he didn't do that? I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know what the ramifications in a court case are going to be when I say, hey, this cop didn't tell my client why they pulled him over. They didn't document it. They didn't do everything the bill says they're supposed to do. So it'll be interesting to see how that will ultimately play out next year. We'll be getting the cases, so we'll be able to report on that. But I think this is a great bill that should be nationwide. What do you guys think?
Man, this does sound like amazing legislation. And I think it's definitely going to help keep a lot of people out of jail. But I do find it very interesting that the points that you bring up legally, where the parts of where we don't know yet in regards to how will judges actually interpret this law when trying to make decisions.
How successful are people when they say, when the cop says, well, I pulled him over because he swerved or didn't put the signal on, and you say, I did put my signal, or I didn't swerve. Is that a successful?
Well, the way that becomes successful for us is when the dash cam, which when they hit those lights, the dash cam is supposed to go on. And so I've had plenty of cases where, where's the swerve? Oh, there's his blinker. The fuck are you talking about? It's the same thing when they come up and go, oh, wow, your eyes are bloodshot and watery. Or they don't even say that. They just write it in the report. And then you freeze the video and it's like, well, where's the red eyes? What are you talking about? So it's just more of a way to catch them in their lies if that's what they're going to do. Without video, it's your word against theirs, and you're pretty much fucked at that point. So it's that dash cam that's gonna really, really help. And if they don't have it on, we can comment on why wasn't it on. What's going on?
Mark,
problems. So we hear that all the time.
I have a question about this, Mark, because we've had Chris Eggers, who is a certified DRE, drug recognition expert, on the show previously. And I'm just wondering how many court cases you have found when law enforcement will say that they had a green tongue, because drug recognition experts are trained to say that if you have smoked weed, that you will get a green tongue from that. And I wonder if you ever had a client that was like eating like a Charms sour apple blow pop, or like some green Jolly Ranchers, and they said that your tongue is green, so therefore you're high on marijuana. Have you ever represented a case like that?
I actually have. I don't know if it was, but it was a sucker. It was a lollipop of some sort. And the unfortunate part is this person got taken in, and they did shut the fuck up. then they didn't do the field sobriety test, but you have a green tongue, taking you in, dumbass. And so that case, I mean, it was dismissed before it even got started, something like that, because they did a blood test and it was nothing. This person didn't even smoke, so it's so outlandish and ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
And the drug recognition experts.
Yes. Go for it, Yarrow.
Let me say this about that with the wiffle ball bat. First of all, I'm loving all the dialogue on our YouTube and Nick and Ben and Brian and like Robust. I'm in a hotel, so I can't type back. I don't even know how to sign in on this laptop. But hello, everybody, all the High at 9 news viewers. Here's my thing, okay? There's some very powerful there's some very powerful unions. I'm pro-union. I believe that unions support workers' rights. There are some powerful unions that I believe are an impediment to progress. It is not a coincidence that the majority of law enforcement unions across the country have resisted body cams for a very long time. And so I think the key thing about law is that it's equally applied and that the greater level of government transparency across all functions and departments, the better, right? So my challenge is Newsom. Newsom likes to come at the 11th hour of a party and take credit for whatever happened before he was there, right? He did that with same-sex couples and the right to marry whomever they loved. He waited until the very 11th hour and said, "Oh, I'm here. I'm principled stand."
Hold on. Hold on. That's not true. He was the first mayor to come out and endorse gay marriage. But he was the first one to put it on a big pedestal. I remember watching that whole thing.
For the work that other people did. So when it came to cannabis, he did his little blue ribbon commission, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. So if you look at a lot of the audit, there's plenty of websites that take videos of people being pulled over in other states where they talk about, hey, you need to express this reasonable articulation of suspicion and why I was pulled over. And so my concern is that Newsom is again late to the party on something that really feels like it's a policy no-brainer, and where he's leaving this obtuse language in the backside of this in terms of law enforcement being educated around it. And so I just feel that like everybody can agree that being able to know why you were pulled over and what the offense, the visible criminal act or infraction was, is just good public policy. And I think that Newsom is again coming in with a watered down last minute version of something that should have been done a long time ago.
Fair enough. And on that, we got to go to a commercial and we're going to be right back.
Relying on 25 years of commercial hydroponic experience, King Solomon Nutrients has engineered the best liquid and dry fertilizer products for cannabis that preserves the crop, the soil, and the environment. Through relentless passion, research, and innovation, King Solomon has developed simplified cannabis crop nutrition you can trust. It was created for farmers, by farmers. Don't mess around. Try the crown.
We're going to just keep this thing rolling right on, and we're going to roll right on into Dr. Talleyrand.
Jason, can I really quick, one sec? Can I get 45 seconds before I got to take off here?
I can give you 30 seconds, Doctor. I can give you 30 seconds, Mark.
You got it.
All right.
My segment was brought to you by the STF pre-roll that has just hit the market. The Shut the Fuck Up pre-roll. We got the script right on it. You can pick it up here at Super Clinic in Santa Ana, Cushagram in Long Beach, Good Life in Moreno Valley, Delivery in Los Angeles, Orange County, Inland Empire. It's a straight, just indica, basic OG, no terps, no flavors, none of that stuff. We're old school guys. We're old school. You smoke this, you will shut the fuck up.
Oh man, I like that. That's good. I like that pitch right there, Mark. I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. Thank you so much for joining us today. And coming up next,
you guys.
Yes,
have a great day.
We have Dr. Gene Talleyrand. This man has been writing recommendations so long, he probably wrote your parents' recommendation, maybe even your grandparents' recommendation, depending on how young or old you are. That's right. It is Mr. Jean Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. My headline today comes from Marijuana Moment. Benefits provider touts first group health medical cannabis program for employees in some states, by Ben Adlin. A new partnership between Benebis Health and Canna Coverage will give businesses a chance to offer discounts on medical cannabis as part of their workplace benefits package. The benefits reduce out-of-pocket costs for employees who use cannabis therapeutically. Benebis Health, which describes itself as dedicated to filling the holes in the health insurance industry for medical cannabis patients, announced the partnership with Canna Coverage, an insurance broker that works in the cannabis industry. In a press release, Benebis Health says that it's the first group health medical cannabis program. Benebis is not a traditional health insurance plan. They provide additional benefits that can be integrated into existing health plans, kind of like Aflac. For people who don't have benefits through an employer, Benebis has individual membership that qualifies patients for their discount at participating dispensaries. Benebis has two membership plans, basic and premium. The basic membership is $29 per year and offers medical cannabis education. According to the website, the education is created by a team of healthcare experts, including a former U.S. Surgeon General. The premium membership at $120 per year offers 15% discount at participating dispensaries in New Jersey, New Mexico, and DC. The website claims that the members save an average of $100 per month on their medical cannabis purchases. So doing the math, that equates to monthly purchases over $600. This partnership is an early example of a coming trend that normalizes medical cannabis coverage in the workplace. The press release reads, with the recent recommendations of HHS to reschedule cannabis, these two organizations anticipate legalization in the near future. Schedule 3 will normalize cannabis as medicine, and the future of healthcare would include this new benefit option. Canna Coverage founder and CEO Nichelle Santos says the opportunity for cannabis to be rescheduled allows a pathway for medical cannabis as a multimodal option and alternative to opioid and other synthetic prescription drugs. Our goal is to expand into all states that offer medical cannabis, said Cynthia Tantum, head of marketing. We are interested in talking with any medical cannabis dispensary interested in joining the network. Co-founder and COO Jeff Booker said that their offering is not only the moral thing to do, but there's also an economic impact. A tremendous cost savings will be realized in reduction of medical cannabis claims and prescription benefits that impact the bottom line. Benebis Health does not cover hospital costs nor vision or dental. It just covers cannabis. A member needs to buy at least $60 of cannabis per month to break even. Essentially, it's a discount buyers club like GoodRx, which generates revenue from subscription fees, referral fees, coupon redemption, and advertising. Like rescheduling to Schedule 3, this effort seems more symbolic. Would you sign up for Benebis Health? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand for High at 9 News.
Oh man, Dr. T, this is great news, I feel like.
Are you going to offer it at your dispensary?
You
can join their network.
I mean, it depends on how much their network is to join, but I mean, it is something that I think that that is definitely worth a consideration of. Learn more about. Yeah.
15% doesn't seem enough to me, but
yeah,
anyway.
I was going to say, I worry that this is really optics and PR newswires over substantial public policy change. We're not talking about a healthcare network or system that offers conventional access to other types of medical modalities. And so the fact that it's just sort of this little thing kind of makes me feel like it's a Costco membership. Like if I spend enough, I get a free hot dog at the fucking exit. The other thing that worries me is that healthcare has never found a way not to increase the costs, the complication, and the logistics of treatments and really patient directed out, patient focused outcomes. So like, let me get this straight. I got to spend money to make money. It's a subscription model. It's this, it's that. I feel like it's just a really recycled business model we've seen a lot in regulated cannabis that has been clothed in a healthcare bathrobe. Do I think that cannabis should be covered under healthcare as a way of increasing access and lowering costs Yes, but I don't hear that in this article yet.
I agree. I feel it's very symbolic more than anything. But it may be the direction to go if a bunch of people want to reduce their costs for cannabis they're purchasing, or want to ensure that the products they're purchasing are medically oriented, or medically beneficial. Then this might be a good way for patients to get together and form
When the
their own
VA
membership plan.
when the VA becomes the biggest purchaser of pharmaceutical grade cannabis in America and flexes its significant purchasing power, only then will I breathe a sigh of relief.
Do you think they'll be purchasing direct from farmers, Yarrow?
No, they'll probably start an exploratory committee to
Uh-huh.
study the most complicated way to create a third-party purchasing entity and then stand it up with a friend of theirs who went to high school with them. And then the first 2 years will be about stakeholder input and coming up with models that don't work. And eventually, after they fuck it up, they'll probably say, well, we learned a lot. And then who knows? Maybe it'll be like that regulator that was assigned in that state we covered last week, who was in and out in 48 hours. No, I think that they will probably find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. But I do think that to me is the litmus test for whether healthcare has acknowledged cannabis as medicine, is when the VA system offers it at no or low cost to its considerable constituents, and where we don't have to rely entirely upon the noble work of these compassion programs and all the veteran focused groups that are really trying to make sure that there's less barrier to entry when it comes to the resources it takes to access this medicine.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. You have any thoughts on this, Gretchen? Hearing?
Sorry.
Oh.
Couldn't find my mute.
Okay.
I would say I think it's a good move. I mean, it may not be the greatest, but everything's a first step.
Yeah.
And so we need to be taking these wins as we get them.
I'm with that. I feel the exact same way on this. Even if it's not the best plan, I mean, it's a good start. It's someone out there trying to do it and
It's in the right direction.
Yeah, trudging that trough. I do worry though a little bit, Dr. Talleyrand, if this picks up too much steam and then it just ultimately becomes the standardized rate because it was so successful in its initial launch. That is one thing that I do worry about in something like that. In regards to the points that you brought up, Yarrow, but nonetheless, we're going to keep this train moving. We are going to roll right on in to Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. He does real estate. He does cannabis, and he does cannabis real estate, and he looks like he's from Florida, but he's really from Sonoma County. That's right, is none other than Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Hey, good morning. High at 9 News. I am from San Francisco, but I do reside in Sonoma County. Either way, Northern California has a monopoly on being paradise. So I love it all. I'm very geocentric. So my article today, I'm gonna try to blast through it because it's a little bit long and we're a little over time, but let's get right down to it. New Jersey awards $12 million in grants to 48 marijuana businesses with focus on aiding communities harmed by drug war. New Jersey is awarding $12 million in grant money to 48 licensed cannabis operators to help them start and expand their businesses. It's part of the state's effort to remove barriers to entry to the legal industry, especially among people from communities disproportionately harmed by the drug war. The $250,000 award to each of the licenses represents the largest cannabis social equity grant of its kind in the nation, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority said Wednesday, as it and other state and local officials announced the new phase of funding. The amount is twice what was originally planned for the grant round. Initially, they were going to select only 24 companies to receive the money, but further allocations of funds by the governor allowed to double the number of awardees. It's important that we build on our efforts to support the businesses seeking to enter and grow within the emerging market. The Cannabis Equity Grant Program allows us to simultaneously expand the pool of cannabis businesses in our state while also focusing on the communities most impacted by the unethical war on drugs. So joint venture money is meant to assist adult use cannabis businesses with capital. I really want to get down to the meat of this because this article is very, very long. 40% of the funds were earmarked for qualifying social equity applicants. Another 5% was allocated for businesses in specifically designed impact zones. Second phase, known as the Seed Equity Grant, will launch later this year and will provide another $150,000 apiece along with technical assistance, according to the release of that funding. 100% will be designated for social equity applicants. Technical assistance will provide licensing, process, training, assistance in developing cannabis business teams, financial management, guidance on securing investors, develop a supply chain management, et cetera, et cetera. So they go on to talk about how amazing they are. And I think I should really just sort of cut to the chase on this. Scrolling to the very last couple paragraphs of this article, talked about California last month opening its application for 48 million in marijuana tax-funded community reinvestment grants, which supports job placement, legal assistance, treatment of mental health and substance use disorders, et cetera, et cetera. That program, which awards grants up to 3 million, is funded exclusively through state cannabis revenue. Okay. So I want to sort of get to the meat of this, which is there's two parts of this article. The first is they're talking about grant funding for social equity businesses. And let me just go on record here, both as a verified social equity applicant and as somebody where the government spent 6 figures to lock me up for selling cannabis and then went and gave me 6 figures so that I could sell cannabis. And I've received substantial amounts of grant money to stand up a business that unfortunately, due to regulatory issues and the inability for me to move that permit from one address to the other, is still non-operational. This last round of grant funding in California for myself, I spent $72,000. I submitted the receipts and the local OOC said, "Oh, sorry." And they didn't give me the money. Even though on 3 previous grant rounds, I did the exact same thing with the exact same timing and got reimbursed. So the challenge with some of these grant funding issues is that when they're administered on a local level, there's not a lot of continuity in the way they administer these funds round to round. There's no appeals process. If you don't like their decision, I emailed and asked them to give me a call, set up a telephone appointment. They didn't even do that. And I've talked to the head of that department in San Francisco, and I mean, I was, I wanted to complain about it to Nicole Elliott last week, but not making it about me. Here's the issue. When a state like New Jersey trumpets that it's the first and the best and the biggest and the this, it again gets back to this hubris around how they think that markets are going to do it better and different. The truth is $250,000 as a single grant round of funding for a social equity business may be the biggest, but that's based on a single round. It doesn't mean that that's the most money that's been deployed into these programs. It doesn't mean that this is the markets that had the most of this. And the thing that we have to really think about is not the dollar amount so much as what is the percentage of tax revenue from the regulated industry that is being allocated to support social equity businesses. When we look at it through that lens, it's still pretty small, pretty pathetic. The other thing that I think is really, really important about this is that in the lower part of the article, it goes from talking about grant funding for social equity businesses to taxes from regulated cannabis and the other great, amazing programs that those taxes are being used to support that often have very little to do with regulated cannabis and have a lot to do with just sort of bettering of society. And so that's a really challenging one for me because I get back up on my soapbox to talk about how the draconian tax structure is the biggest issue in regulated cannabis. And so the problem with these taxes is they tax the heck out of regulated cannabis, but then they give it to some good causes. And who has a problem with orphans with a cleft palate, right? Like nobody's going to go against some of the uses of these funds, but we've created stakeholders who are recipients of this tax money who don't want to see tax reform in regulated cannabis because they're benefiting from the taxes that are strangling the industry. So my takeaway is social equity grant funding. Yes, let's do more. Let's maybe not give ourselves a pat on the back so much, New Jersey, and let's see how your regulated adult use industry progresses before we start saying we're the best and the biggest and the this and this and that. And when it comes to taking these taxes in states like California or elsewhere, where we're taking money out of the regulated industry to support other important causes, I think that sets us up for having less incremental tax reform over time. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News, Friday morning. What do you guys think?
That's a lot, Yarrow. That's a lot to swallow right there. That's a lot.
Buckley, I can't hear you, Jason.
That's a lot to swallow right there, Yarrow. Jeez Louise. Man.
2 cups of coffee, baby.
I feel like, man, all this money that's getting out. Where are they getting all this money from, Yarrow? Where's the source of the money?
Well, I mean, aside from the fact that the government is off the gold standard and prints whatever it wants, the I believe that the social equity funding in New Jersey probably comes out of the general fund. I don't know. I don't spend enough time in New Jersey. I can't tell you the source of funds. I know in California, for example, social equity grant funding comes from GoBiz at the state level and then is distributed to local municipalities that have a social equity cannabis program. But again, I think we have two really major issues here. How much money are we really giving to support new businesses, social equity businesses? What does that look like? How is that expressed as a percentage of the total addressable market of regulated cannabis? And then the second is when you tax the heck out of cannabis and then you give it to all these amazing causes, you create all of these entrenched interest groups, noble interest groups who don't want to see tax reform and regulated cannabis because they're benefiting from the current status quo. And that's a problem because that doesn't allow regulated cannabis to have substantial tax reform over time and lower the tax structure, which ultimately will increase the regulated market and decrease the unregulated market.
Got it. Yeah, no, I'm with you. That is very for sure. Like people that are benefiting from tax revenue definitely don't want that tax revenue to dissipate at all whatsoever. I mean, just look at our federal government and the gross size of it is right now. You can tell that just from that. You don't even need the social equity applicant to tell you that.
They're like hummingbirds to sugar water. Ooh,
exactly.
Give me that tax money.
Oh, let me get some pork on the side of that plate right there on the side of that amendment. Gretchen knows all about all this extra pork, but nonetheless, we got to keep.
I miss pork. We don't do enough pork anymore. Pork was a good thing. People didn't see it that way. I am not a big fan of. I don't have a problem with this grant to start. If this is a running thing to keep these businesses going, that's not a good thing. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a better way for these businesses to sustain, like certain deductions and things of that nature. I don't know. But I'm not a big, we'll see. Here's some money. See what you can do with it. Mm-hmm. But at some point, the free market has to start flourishing.
We don't have a free market. As long as Apple is able to offshore its corporate entities to Ireland and pay zero taxes, we have a market that favors those who are sophisticated and resourced, and all this does is level the playing field. We don't have a free market. Let's be very clear about that. Most industries have substantially benefited from government support, whether it is farming, technology. You can't pick a single vertical that isn't sucking off those tax benefits or economic incentives that are created by our government.
And you can't pick another vertical that has allowed social equity to run it. So exactly. I don't understand why all of a sudden cannabis is the one industry that needs help social equity wise. How about doing this for other industries? Cannabis is the only one where they're saying we need money to get started. What's wrong with restaurants? What's wrong with, working it for ag and other places? Why is cannabis? And don't give me the war on drugs, yada, yada, yada. I've heard that song and dance. I get it.
The answer is that because
no other industry
at a federal
no
level,
other industry requires this.
Offset the benefits that other industries have federally. I mean, I just mic dropped you. Can you say? I don't
know if you did that.
Agree to disagree, Yarrow. Out of your mind.
Yeah, I think you're out of your mind on this one too,
and look
Yarrow.
at the time, 1:03. Yeah. I gotta go.
Yeah. All right, we gotta go. We got to get right over to Dr. Mark Scialdone. Did I say that right? Oh, Dr. Mark Scialdone. There we go. Sorry, Dr. Mark. He's out there.
How many weeks is the man going to be on before you learn his name?
Man, you know what? You can't fault the disabled people for making mispronunciations when they're trying to learn something. That's very shameful, Gretchen. But nonetheless,
I'll shame you every day. I don't buy this horseshit disability stuff you keep pushing every day.
I'm just telling you, it's just the truth. I'm permanently disabled. State of California says I'm disabled. Everything. Yeah. Federal government says I'm disabled.
State of California never got anything fucking wrong.
Mm-hmm. Federal government says I'm disabled. Yep. But nonetheless, you're taking away from Dr. Mark Scialdone's introduction, Gretchen. You're stealing all of his shine because he's been shining up that lab, making everything real pretty for this on-screen performance today. That's right. He's been formulation, and all of a sudden he's cooked up an amazing story, and I can't wait for him to deliver it to you. That's right. It is Dr. Mark Scialdone.
My beaker is empty.
Yeah.
Empty beaker. That's because I clean up my glassware. Okay, I'll get through this real quick, I swear. My story today comes from Kentucky Today, and the title is Governor Gives Progress Report on Medical Marijuana. medical marijuana will not be legal in Kentucky until January 1st, 2025. But during a Thursday afternoon news conference, Governor Andy Beshear gave a progress report on the preparations that are currently underway. We have established a medical cannabis program, which is in the office that is going to do this work as part of the Cabinet of Health and Family Services, Beshear said. The office is preparing to communicate the implementation of this law with a new website that went live today. So moving forward, you can get updates on the implementation through the website kymedcan.ky.gov. Oh, the KY is killing me.
Oh, boy.
He described what the website contains: guidelines and answers to frequently asked questions for providers, growers, physicians, APRNs, obviously some kind of registered nurse, and others with interest in the program. Beshear said the office also has pages on X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, so the public can follow along. Part of the legislation passed by the General Assembly earlier this year included the creation of a 9-member board of physicians and advisors to provide medical and scientific recommendations for the program. Beshear said that his board held its first meeting on Wednesday and took its first steps to ensuing Kentucky's has safe and effective access, or a safe access and effective medical cannabis program. The governor also announced the formation of the Team Kentucky Medical Cannabis Work Group. This work group proposed is to study the evolving medical cannabis industry policy and the state of medical cannabis in our Commonwealth and around the country. This group will include individuals from state and local government, as well as folks from the private sector with relevant experience in law enforcement, agriculture, healthcare, workforce, and economic development. He said the work group will make recommendations to the program and to other state agencies that interact with this new law to make sure Kentuckians have safe access to medical cannabis. Beshear added, under the executive order he signed before the General State Assembly legalization bill, Kentuckians with qualified medical conditions continue to seek relief with medical cannabis by going out of state and following all those conditions that you need to carefully read in the executive order. All Kentuckians with qualifying medical conditions deserve the chance at a brighter, pain-free future without ever having to turn to opioids. We know those that did in our state. And that's from Tom Ladek at the Frankfurt Reporter. So again, this is that Kentucky law that basically tells these folks that they're okay to drive out of state, buy medical cannabis, and bring it back to Kentucky. So I don't know if the other adjacent states are going to have laws that are going to harmonize with that. But certainly this seems to be problematic in that until they get medical cannabis produced in Kentucky, that he's encouraging residents of Kentucky to go over state lines and get it. This is Dr. Mark from the High at 9 News. Interested on what you all have to say.
Oh, man, he's still doing the same thing. He's going to be getting these people arrested. Me and Gretchen actually have a bet on this too, Dr. Mark.
Well, I mean, I can't
hear you, Gretchen.
Gretchen, you're on mute.
No, Jason Beck. The bet is over. Yes. I won the bet.
The bet ain't ever over.
You have not paid the bet.
That bet is not over because I'm still waiting for the case. So then that way I can show you that I've won the bet.
What? You're out of your mind. The case. What are you talking about?
We didn't have a timeline on this bet.
Dude, by the time that they legalized it, no one would get arrested.
We didn't have a timeline. Over. We didn't have a timeline on the bet. That's cute.
Bullshit, we didn't have a timeline. Where's Adam? Where's everybody else who was paying attention?
Children, one of you goes in that corner, the other goes in the other one. Here's the thing I needed to just sort of
If the world knew how much money Jason Beck owed me.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what I needed to insert, okay? Pro tip. If you're going to use the words KY when we're talking about medicine. That is a very slippery slope.
I see what you did there,
Yeah.
Yarrow.
Dear Lord, you and your tip.
Yep,
Just the tip, Yarrow is
well,
your
I mean,
nickname.
look at his hotel bed behind you, Gretchen. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He hasn't even made his bed yet.
I don't want
He's still
Listen,
using it.
I might not make my bed, but I sleep in it.
Okay, all right. You made your bed, sleep in it.
So Mark, listen, real talk. You're right? They're encouraging people to break the law, but it's also a byproduct of not having a more robust regulatory framework within that state that allows for access, right? And so we're seeing that. I'm doing a lot of dispensary development across the country, and we see that dispensaries at the border of dry or restrictive medical states without a robust adult use program are benefiting from the logjam within those adjacent states. And so my hope is that every state stands up something that makes sense, that includes age restriction, laboratory testing, and where they can economically benefit from what's going to happen with their citizenry anyway. And so if Kentucky can't do that quick enough, then it's their loss, it's their lack of revenue. And yes, it does put those patients at risk. And this isn't going to be a defense in court if they get caught driving across state lines with an ounce.
Well, we got to remember too, hemp is really big in Kentucky. There's a lot of hemp farming, a lot of hemp processing going on. So you got to believe that there's a lot of Delta 8 being transacted in the state of Kentucky. So what we're talking about here is Delta 9, and hemp-derived Delta 9 is now a thing, right? So you can put enough hemp-derived Delta 9 into, say, like a gummy, dilute it below that 0.3 threshold, and now those gummies can cross state lines, are available at gas stations, bodegas, and really 2 clicks after you've answered the I'm 21 yes, you can put in your credit card information to buy these things. Yeah, the THCA flower, I don't think is going to hold a lot of water, but I think this hemp-derived THC, where the THC is in the finished good, a lot lower than the 0.3%. I don't know how they snuffed that out.
I feel like however this plays out, it's going to be easier for them to work out their regulatory structure than it is for Gretchen to be able to collect on a bet from Jason. I think that's
right.
100%.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you guys are just out of your minds today. But thank you all. That was so much fun and entertaining.
That'll
and
happen
educational.
when safe banking happens, right, Gretchen?
Maybe.
You guys are such wishful thinkers. You guys are such.
She's putting the Mo in Venmo. Come on, pay her up.
She's
he
been paid.
Not to know about digital payment options.
She's been paid, and I told her, when I owe her for another bet, she sends me a pre-addressed stamped envelope, and then I put $100 in there. I do it online, and put it right there.
This is
there.
insane.
Yep.
I feel like if I help get this over the finish line, I'm entitled to a commission for helping to collect.
Yarrow, if you can get this over the finish line, yeah, we can talk commission.
Yarrow couldn't even get himself over the finish line today.
Don't make me go full Pulp Fiction.
Oh boy, here we go.
She's
gonna
in
put
DC
on
where bartering can be done. So all you need is $100 worth of product.
We love
Jason.
to make a deal.
And don't forget about Miss Spokes. Miss Spokes too is pretty popular in DC too. Yeah. See,
that's all I do is come up here and misspeak.
Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to our audience and supporters for always tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you, everyone participating in the chat. We super appreciate all of your antics and insight. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and thank you, Gretchen, Dr. Mark, and you too, Yarrow, and Dr. Talleyrand, and also Pod Brothers at Law coming on today. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's America's #1 daily cannabis news show.